Hey you guys, Natalie here. Welcome back to another week of What's for Dinners, and welcome if you're new to my channel. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'm only going to be sharing 2 recipes because I did not have a chance to cook a lot throughout last week, and the reason why is because on the weekend I went ahead and spent it with my best friend since we were celebrating her bachelorette party, and then my husband was not feeling very well. For those of you who don't know, he suffers from chronic pain due to service-related disabilities, and whenever he doesn't feel well, he can only stomach certain foods. Majority of them are snacky foods, so I don't find myself cooking a lot when he doesn't feel well. Especially if it's only for myself, it doesn't really motivate me to cook for myself. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. I rather cooking when the both of us are gonna eat. So this was one of those days where he was feeling good and I was making enchiladas because I was craving them so bad. I want to clear something up. I'm not Mexican, but I'm following a recipe from Stephanie from Views on the Road, and she gives a very interesting twist on how to make the red sauce for the enchiladas. So in here, I have a bag of chile guajillo, which I found at my regular grocery store here in Texas, and the bag will also call them chile cascabel. I don't know if that will be useful information or not, but what I'm doing here is I'm de-seeding all the chiles, and I'm going to put them in a cookie sheet that I'm going to bring to the oven at 200 degrees for 3 minutes per side. And what that's going to do is that it's going to toast my chiles, and it's going to allow me to grind them better, because that chili powder that we're going to create is going to be the base for the sauce. I really like this approach because the traditional approach intimidates me so much. Traditionally, you do have to boil your chiles, and I really don't know how to do that. I'm afraid I'm going to make them bitter. This is one of those recipes that I've never saw or watched my mom making, and so it really freaks me out that I damage it because I don't know what I'm doing, and you have to be very intuitive with what you're doing. So in here, I'm putting my chiles into the food processor, and I'm going to insert some of the sounds so that you know how those chiles need to sound whenever you're handling them, because mine were too chewy or too soft. So if I grinded them that way, I was not going to obtain a powder. So this step is really important. So Stephanie from Views on the Road suggests that you should use a coffee grinder or a Vitamix to pulverize your chiles, and I had none of those, so I ended up using my food processor, and I did manage to pulverize some of it, but not all of it. So I had to strain it at the end because it came to a point where I couldn't pulverize it anymore. So I strained it, and I did manage to get a good amount of chili powder, but I do have to say it's not exactly the most efficient way to do it because you do waste whatever you can pulverize. So I do recommend you following her instructions and doing as she says, not like I did. Once my chili powder is done, I'm gonna go ahead and work into my enchilada filling, which is going to be shredded chicken. I'm taking 2 large chicken breasts. I'm gonna put them in a cookie sheet with salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and I'm going to bring it to the oven at 350 degrees for around 30 to 40 minutes. And once they're done, I'm going to shred them, and I'm going to use it into the enchiladas once I'm assembling them. Next comes cooking my enchilada sauce. I have my pan heating up and all my ingredients on the side as I'm showing you, and we are going to start the enchilada sauce as follows. So in my pan, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sunflower oil. You can use any oil you prefer, but I don't think olive oil is something that is traditionally used into the dish. I don't know. To that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup or maybe less than a 1/4 cup of chili powder. As you can see, that's all that I had to work with. That's what I said. It was not very efficient to do it in the food processor, but that's what I managed to get. And I'm going to cook all of that chili powder into my oil, and I'm going to wait for it to start sizzling a little bit or bubbling. And once I see those bubbles, I'm going to go ahead and add my water. Just for your reference, I am going to leave her video down below. And just so you know, I'm using half of her recipe. In here, I'm adding half of that can of Hunt's tomato sauce. She strongly suggests that brand, so I use that, and I don't know any different, but it came out really good, so I will recommend you to use the Hunt sauce as well. And then in here, I'm adding 1 teaspoon and a half of that Norse chicken bouillon, which is a critical ingredient for enchilada. It has to be Knorr, and it has to be the chicken bouillon. And in here, I am showing you how thick my sauce looks. She explains very clear that you don't have to use any cornstarch, and she is right. The sauce will thicken up just by itself. In here, I have my pot heating up with some sunflower oil again, and I'm going to add some rice. I'm going to make Mexican rice, and the way you do that is by cooking the rice into the oil for a few minutes until you see the rice toasted and crispy before you add your liquids. As you can see here, my rice has cooked for a few minutes now, and it's starting to change its appearance. It's looking a little bit more thick, a little bit more dry. And here I'm adding the water, and I'm going to let the water come to a boil before I add the rest of my ingredients. I'm also going to link her video down below so that you can see exactly how I did it. I'm adding some more of that Norse chicken bouillon, and then the other half of that Hunt's tomato sauce that I had left over from the enchilada sauce. I'm going to add a little bit of water into my can just so that I can take advantage of all that tomato sauce that didn't come out. And I'm going to let that boil, bring the heat down, put the lid on, and just wait for the rice to be ready. And here I have some of the cheeses that I'm going to be using for my enchiladas. I decided to go very authentic, and the one that's crumbled is queso fresco, and the one that's shredded is queso Oaxaca, which is spelled Oxaca. I don't know why it's spelled in a different way than how you say it, because even in Spanish you'll say it Oaxaca. I think it's very curious. If any of y'all know, you can leave me in the comment section why is that difference. But in here I have my chicken that just came out of the oven, and I'm going to shred it with my hand mixer. And I should have gotten a bigger and deeper bowl because I did make a mess in my kitchen making this. But I wanted this bowl because I wanted to be able to show you what I was doing. The important thing is that you saw what I did, and I did shred my chicken even though I ended up cleaning the mess afterwards. And after all that prep, it's finally time to assemble our enchiladas. So in here, I'm heating up some more oil into a pan, and I have about 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm going to quickly fry my tortillas. The reason why I'm doing that is so that I can make them pliable. And if they're not pliable, if they're not heated up, they might break. And I don't want tortillas breaking up on me. I don't know about you, but not me. So I decided to fry them. Why not? I don't fry tortillas every day, that's for sure. So I'm going to start by frying my corn tortillas, 10 seconds per side. And here is fast forwarded, so you really cannot tell, but I actually counted 10 seconds per side. And I'm going to take them out with a thong. I'm going to put them in my plate. And once I'm done frying all of them, please do not judge my tortilla frying skills. But once I'm done frying all of them, I'm going to put them in the sauce and then assemble my enchiladas. You'll see what I'm doing. So last tortilla into the oil, and then it's time to submerge them into the sauce. Guys, you work really hard for this sauce, so make sure you get those tortillas really coated. I'm not gonna bake my enchiladas today, so make sure that sauce is present on those tortillas. I gotta say that this is a job to get your hands dirty, get your fingers in there. That's the authentic way to do it. And you know, they look exactly like the ones they serve you on the Mexican restaurants, at least if you go to the very traditional ones more than the Tex-Mex ones. And oh my god, I mean, for real, I was a little bit impressed by this recipe. And then here I'm filling up my enchiladas. I have my mise en place ready. And I'm putting some chicken. I'm putting some of that Oaxaca cheese. I don't know if I mentioned that, but if you don't have any of these cheeses available where you live, you can always use mozzarella. At least the Oaxaca one, you can tell it mozzarella is a very good substitute for it. So once I have all that in there, I'm going to roll them up, and then the queso fresco is going to be the topper of the enchiladas once I plate them. Now, one recommendation I have for you is that make sure that all of your chicken is very hot and that your cheese is room temperature, because mine was cold. So when we ate the enchiladas, they were a little cold on the inside, and that was not very pleasant. Thank God Luke didn't care. But overall, I was really happy with how these turned out. I gotta say, the sauce, when I tried it, was a little bit, I don't know, it didn't taste like very good to me. I don't know how to explain it, but you know, it was kind of weird. But then when I tasted the whole thing together, oh my word, I gotta say it tasted like the ones from the restaurant. So like I said, I am pretty pleased and impressed on how these turned out. And here are our plates. We devour the whole thing. The only thing is that I wish they were a little bit more spicy, the sauce, and that was because I did not use enough chili powder. One thing to do better next time. But Luke and I agreed that these ones tasted like the ones from the restaurant, so I was pretty pleased and happy about that. And the second recipe that I'm going to be sharing today is an improvise with me recipe, a gnocchi concoction. So in here, I prepared some ingredients that I decided to toss in a pan along with a pot with hot water to boil my gnocchi. So in here, I have some olive oil, and I'm going to add, I'm gonna make sure that it's hot first than anything, and then I'm going to add some of my onion that I have thinly diced as a base for my sauté vegetables. I wanted to make this some sort of gnocchi with sauté vegetables and some sort of protein. So in here I am cooking my onions into my oil, and once that's a little bit caramelized, I'm going to go ahead and crush 1 clove of garlic into the onion, because I can't do anything without garlic unless the recipe calls or says that you specifically don't use garlic. But hey, garlic and onion are my best friends in the kitchen, so I'm mixing that in, and I'm going to add also some salt and some pepper. Luke told me the other day that I'm not supposed to add salt on top of mushrooms, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna add the salt and pepper before I add my mushrooms. So once that's all very well incorporated, I'm adding some mushrooms that I have in the refrigerator that I needed to run out of or eat. So I'm adding that in there, and I'm going to let it cook a little bit. And then I'm going to add a healthy drizzle of white wine, and I'm going to leave the sound here because it's the sound of glory. But more than the sound and the looks, I just really wish you could smell that, because it's really good. It's really delicious. So to that, well, I left my wine evaporate and the alcohol cook down. And to that, I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes that I have sliced in half. And then I'm adding probably like a teaspoon of oregano, dried oregano. I'm going to mix that all very well. And at this point, my gnocchi is already cooking in my boiling water. It only needs like 3 minutes. So in here I have all my ingredients ready, and I'm acting very fast. I added a whole can of tuna and a drizzle of chicken broth, just so that my sauce does not get dried. Of course, you can use any protein of your preference, and to that I'm also adding some sliced olives that I have in my fridge. This plate in general is inspired, oh, in there I added my gnocchi. So this plate is inspired by a pasta I used to eat in Pumarola, which is a Italian restaurant in Miami. It was my favorite restaurant from Miami. Delicious food, and they used to serve a pasta that was very similar to this. This was the final result, and I gotta say, oh my god, this was so delicious. It was 10 out of 10. There was no leftover for whatever I fixed, and definitely making this again. Hey you guys, it's me. I have no more space in my footage to tell you thank you so much for all your support. All of you who have subscribed, commented, and liked my videos. You have no idea how much that means to me. I love creating content like this for y'all, and to think that there's people who are enjoying it and liking it as much as I am creating it really fulfills my heart. So I want to just take a moment to thank you, and if you made it to the end of this video, thank you as well for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I am so looking forward to having you for the next one later this week. Bye.